Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tuesday, March the 24th, and this is the Village of Point Edward Council meeting. I'll be chairing the meeting today as Mayor Hand is on vacation, but Mayor Hand has elected to join us by Zoom, so we appreciate that. I will now start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through this connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. We'll start with any disclosures of pecuniary interest.
None. Have none.
Mayor Hand?
None.
Okay, thank you.
None known.
Okay. We did have a delegation scheduled, but the delegate let Jim know that she's coming in from Petrolia and may be delayed. So in light of that, with council's approval, I'd like to move item 5 up, and then we will do the delegation after the planning session. Is that okay with everyone? Okay.
Yes.
So under the planning, we have 1600 Venetian Boulevard. I'll call Jared up to the desk to make his presentation. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Grimes, members of council, members of the public, and village staff. My name is Jared Preston. I've been a planner for the County of Lambton for just over 3 years. I've been providing planning service as well to the Village of Point Edward. And I'm just going to give an overview of the 1600 Venetian subdivision agreement and provide council a recommendation after my presentation. So just to start, just a little bit of a recap. So this past summer in July 8th, Village of Point Edward Council approved a zoning bylaw amendment to amend the residential marina 1.5 zone. At the time, it only allowed up to 6 single detached dwellings and no semis. No singles as of right. So planning staff went to council and asked for a 21 lot subdivision composing of 20 semi-detached dwellings and 1 single. And on July 8th, that got approved. So now the bylaw that is current right now for that zone on that property allows single and semi-detached dwellings as of right. So after that, staff wrote up a draft approval conditions for the plan subdivision, which was the next phase. So that draft approval was granted for the plan subdivision on November 5th, 2025. So this past fall. And on the 12th of February, so just over a month ago, we also had minor variance approval that was granted by the village's Committee of Adjustment to reduce a rear yard setback on lot 14 for the proposed plan of subdivision. So where we are right now, we still have a subdivision agreement that is still required from the village council prior to any construction or alteration that the owner can do to the site. We're seeking council's approval today to execute that agreement, but also to allow staff to make any minor revisions to any of the civil plans or any of the other agencies' comments or conservation authority conditions prior to any execution. So as part of the submission, staff have drafted a site plan agreement, which is agreeable to staff and the developer. We use a template based on other municipalities in Lambton County to form it. It contains matter of municipal and public interest, and it ensures that all the subdivision infrastructure is constructed to municipal standards and addresses any municipal financial concerns that we have. So the subdivision agreement addresses conditions of the draft approval for the plan to subdivision. There have also been civil works that have been peer reviewed by BM Ross, so the village's appointed engineer. And there is a multiple amount of items that I won't specifically go through, but are listed in the report that have been included into the agreement. And then there's also financial arrangements, which I've also included into the report that have been between the Village of Point Edward and the developer. So those have been agreed upon too, and those are included in the agreement. So the civil plans for this development has gone through multiple iterations, based on agency and peer review from the county level and from the village's engineer. So any of those plans have been separate attachments to the agreement. As a schedule. So we expect, time-wise, those formal comments from the village's peer review, County Public Works and St. Clair Conservation Authority. We expect those comments to come in shortly, but we expect those revisions to be minor, if any. And we don't wish to delay any of the agreement's approval to the next council meeting. So that's why we seek council's approval for the subdivision agreement and civil plans in principle, with permission to approve any minor revisions if the engineer comes back, and which they have come back, and suggest any minor revisions to the agreement. So our overall recommendation today that I'm proposing to you is that council approve this subdivision agreement and pass the bylaw number 06 of 2026 to authorize the execution of this subdivision agreement between the Village of Point Edward and the owner of 1600 Venetian Boulevard, and authorize staff to make any minor revisions to the civil plans or any conditions from other agencies prior to execution. And so that's just my general overview of where we are right now. And I'd be happy to answer any questions from members of the audience or members of council.
Hey, Jared, any questions from council? That's what I want to do.
I've got a few here. When we did the draft approval, or I guess, yeah, in November, it was raised about the fact that the subdivision had no sidewalks. And I see now they put in sidewalks on there. Well, there's a sidewalk on the south side of Tia Drive. And there's one on the west side of Scott Court, but there's nothing. I thought the whole subdivision would have a sidewalk, and it looks like it's not that way at all. So my question is, this is probably going to be more of a senior development. You know, you're going to have people with walking on one side and then having to cross the road. Like, since I can see no designated crosswalk in that plan or whatever. So I know it's only 20 homes, but still people I think will tend to walk on the road. So that's one question.
Okay. Want Jared to answer that then?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, any input on that?
Yeah, through the mayor, we've looked at the plans. We haven't seen the crosswalk or the sidewalk as an overall issue, and I have beside me my manager of planning, Will Matt Wenning, senior planning official for the county, and we've reviewed those plans as well. Overall, on the review, that's not the sidewalks is nothing that it's not something that we flagged as an issue as of now, but I will definitely take note of it. From councils. Do I need to speak into the microphone, or?
If Jared can just turn it towards you.
Yeah.
There you go. That'll get you.
My apologies on my tardiness. I
Well, we
ran
did-
into some traffic.
Yeah, and we did move you up in the agenda, so you would have been right on time if we hadn't modified the agenda, so it's all good.
So I think I caught the question there with respect to the sidewalk. So when we looked at that, when our BM Ross looked at that on our behalf as well, we actually were anticipating that the sidewalk would be on the other side of their street. But they explained that there was some conflict with utilities, and that's why it was located on the side that it is on. And not necessarily that's the reason why it's located on only one side, but that's why it's located on that side. Usually for a street of this level, in terms of the amount of traffic that we'd anticipate and the number of lots that are there, we would only require a sidewalk on one side. Preferably, it would be on the other side of the street, but it created some kind of conflict with other utilities.
Thank you. Another question? There was a committee of adjustment, rear setback change on lot 14. From the plan, it looks like lot 13's cut off on the corner as well. Is that still within the 5.5 meter backyard? Because there's various documents here that they all look different where the cutoff seems to be. So just, there's no issue with lot 13, or is there?
Yeah, so through the mayor, when we did the overall check, and this was through Robinson Design at the time. They flagged that setback on lot 13. Lot 14. I checked it over. That was the only one that didn't meet that rear lot setback.
Okay.
So that's what we went to council for. The other lots met that rear lot setback.
Okay, because it looks like it's, now, another question, there's supposed to be some kind of secondary fencing at the back of the lots on the west side, is there not, for the snakes? There was some fencing that was supposed to be at the lot to the end of the property, is that not correct?
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there is fencing offset from the rear lot line, which is intended to be to protect a snake corridor.
Okay, yeah. So that would be the furthest most point. So the lot would be, this would not be the lot line that I'm looking at then, the lot line would be, that would be the lot line, but the property line would be further back on the other side of this fenced area.
So the lots would run through to so the new lots, their lot lines would run through to the end of the current property. There would be a portion of the rear of those lots that would be part of that snake corridor. So that snake corridor would be divided up privately between a number of lots.
Okay. On the west side. Yeah, the river, like,
yeah.
casino side, whatever, okay, there was lots of talk about block 24, which is a parking lot today. And there were talk of, I saw in the agreement that, you know, there was a comment there about not being able to sell that property. That block, since it's within the endangered species habitat, is that going to be remediated? Because I don't see on the plan here where it states that. Do we know?
So there is a provision in the special provisions that says they will implement the requirements of the MECP permit, which indicates what is required in those areas. So the only requirement that we specifically put on the plan from that was the fencing.
Okay.
Because that's going to be located on private lands. But the block 22 and 20, whichever blocks they are, that are going to be the two blocks that would be the rehabilitation area, that would be subject to the MECP requirements. The provision with respect to it not being sold, there was some discussion from the applicant that they would be interested in selling that to the abutting parcel.
Yes.
And we indicated, well, currently that's shown as rehabilitation area. So if you can determine with the ministry that is appropriate to remove that area, that still would meet the goals of the rehabilitation plan, then fine. But in the meantime, we have to assume that is required for that purpose. For snake rehabilitation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nope, that's all. Thank you.
Councilor Burgess, Mayor Hand, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I thought it was well detailed in the documents.
I just have, if I may, I just have a couple. In the financial section, there's a parkland dedication fee. Now, are we not getting the property at the curve as parkland? And is this in addition to that?
So there's a couple of parcels there. Block 29 at the west end is kind of an hourglass shaped parcel. That was initially going to be conveyed to us as parkland dedication, and I don't know if Jared had the opportunity to go through that yet. But the peer review that came through from BM Ross identified that they were lacking sufficient stormwater control, and so the initial comments we received from the peer review was that they had a solution that they're working through that seemed to work. When we see now what is proposed, they're actually proposing that park area to be used as for stormwater control. So it's our suggestion that no, we don't want to take that as a park. Normally, we don't consider stormwater management infrastructure to be park. So we would be asking that they simply be conveying that to us as municipal infrastructure. And so on the east side, I believe it's block 22 on the south side of the cul-de-sac, if I have my directions right, we're on angles with this one. That block is the rehabilitation block. And so the indication is that they're suggesting that will be owned communally with a part ownership from each owner in the lot. So that would be more of a community owned park, not something that the town would own or be in control of. So it's not technically park space, it's rehabilitation space for the Endangered Species Act. An exception to that is we see there's a little corner there where they've proposed putting in some stormwater storage as well. We would want that to be conveyed as a separate block. So split that block up into two pieces. The portion that would be part of the stormwater storage would be conveyed to the municipality is what we would suggest, because you want that under your ownership in the long term, because you're going to be owning and maintaining that stormwater depression area. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just have a follow-up on this. So the land to the north, it'll be a stormwater collection area. Will it be a fenced-in pond type area, or will it just be absorption into the ground?
It would be a dry pond, so there would be no it wouldn't rely on infiltration. It would rely on a catch basin at the end, that an orifice that would restrict the flow. So the idea would be that in the bigger rains, that it would fill up with water, and then the orifice would control its release so that it doesn't get back into the stormwater system at a rate beyond what the stormwater system can handle.
Okay.
But that would be a temporary situation just for the peak of the storm and just for the bigger storms. The idea that it would be dry for the most part. So it would be a slope that you can walk down to. I think it would be like maybe knee deep if it does fill. But it would be a slope that you could walk down to, but not something that, say, you would push a wheelchair down or anything like that. But it normally a dry pond, you don't fence that because it's not really considered a safety hazard.
Okay, and then there's a $15,000 woodlot removal in the financial section. Is that related to what? Is that the woodlot that got removed early, or is this the parkland storm area?
So through the chair, the woodlot removal is the trees that were removed off the property manually by the owner and some of the ones that got hit by the storm.
So it's a penalty then, would you call it, or a like a payment in lieu of the trees being removed?
Yeah, it would be a payment in lieu of the trees that were removed. And we basically it's half of what it originally was because it was removed by the storm.
Right,
It was actually twice that amount, but because the owner indicated to us that half of it was, we didn't want to charge that full amount.
okay. And then my other question relates to, you're asking for us to grant permission for you to approve minor variances or minor exceptions. How are we determining minor for your approval process?
Yeah, so we do have comments back now from the peer reviewers and also from County Roads. So some of these minor things are like adjusting some heights of some of the outlets for like the storm ponds and things like that, just because the peer reviewer had questions about how that would work. Another one is the some of the grading details on the TS Street where it comes out to Venetian, just to make sure that stormwater doesn't pool out onto Venetian during certain events. There's another one about double checking the elevations of some of the sanitary connections coming into the houses at the high end of the sanitary sewer to make sure that they don't interfere with the foundation elevation. So those are kind of the nature of the types of things that are proposed. So it's not changes in where street lights or sidewalks or anything on the surface would be located. It's changes in grading and underground infrastructure. The other thing that we would note is that has come out since the report was submitted and seeing the final comments back from BM Ross is the fact that parkland is being proposed to be used as a storm pond. So we would suggest that portion of the agreement be amended to say that we're not taking any parkland in actual land, that is just being received as infrastructure. That we would take the full parkland as cash in lieu. So it was going to be kind of a half and half split of land and cash. So it would become all cash. And then also that one block that was going to be communally owned, that a portion of that would have to be cut off and be received by the town as a block for infrastructure in the future. I believe that is the nature of the amendments to this agreement as you see it before you now.
And the approving of this to allow staff to make the minor, but that's standard in many deals like this?
I would say ideally the plans are done and set before it gets to this point that's approved. But it's not unusual for these types of infield changes to happen on the fly after construction goes. Like you get the plans set in a subdivision agreement, but then they're a little bit fluid after that because of, when you're dealing with things in the field, the engineer and the municipality staff have to make decisions on the fly as you encounter different situations. So I would say these changes that we're proposing, other than the parkland dedication item, these other changes are things that are fairly standard to switch up on the fly.
Okay. And then finally, Councillor Mondu alluded to this, but that rear lot snake corridor, I just like a little bit more description of how that's going to be. So people's backyards will go so far, they'll have a 6-foot privacy fence, and then will there be land beyond that they own that is a snake corridor? Is that the way it's going to be set up?
Correct.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. I told myself that, didn't I? Okay, Bev, go ahead, Mayor Hand, and then we come to Councilor.
Sorry, back to your question about, is this a common process? I'm thinking that the reason that we're doing it this way is because it's March. And Jared had referenced that he didn't want to wait another council meeting. I think it's based on construction season.
Yep.
Is that part of what's happening?
Yes, that's my understanding as well. Yep.
Okay.
Councilor Mondo?
I just got a question. So part of this review, is our staff involved in this review as well? Like operations, environmental, fire? So there's nothing in the infrastructure that would impact any of the future village operations?
Yeah,
Or taking over, whatever?
The subdivision layout as you see it
Mhm.
and the civil plans. Yeah, they've been reviewed by not just the peer reviewer, but the Public Works Department, the Fire Department, they've all had opportunity to review these as the process has gone along.
And if there's any significant changes, they'll be brought into the process too. But things can happen, right?
Right, so there's a provision in the subdivision agreement that says that the municipal engineer can make changes based on the need to make in-field decisions.
Mhm.
So yeah, the municipal engineer would be, well, the municipal engineer is kind of a theoretical person in this case because you don't have an engineer on staff, but so I think ultimately that would be Jim's call in consultation with such people as he thinks are necessary to involve in that decision.
Okay, just the reason I'm asking, we don't have very many subdivisions going up in Point Edward over the last number of years, so, okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions then? So we're looking for a mover and a seconder that the report regarding a plan of subdivision for 1600 Venetian Boulevard be received in file, as the bylaw comes up later in the agenda.
I'll move.
Moved by
We receive
Councilor
a file.
Mondo, second by Councilor Noctor. All in favor? Here's your in favor. Okay, I didn't spin my head fast enough. Okay, all right, that's carried. Thank you. And we have a delegation, Sandra Laranja from 102 Livingston is here to present to council. If you want to come up here to the microphone and make your presentation.
Oh, that's,
No problem at all.
no, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we got it and we moved the planning up to accommodate that.
It's 102 Michigan.
Well, Michigan, I'm sorry. It is Livingston in the agenda.
Oh, I apologize.
We'll make that correction.
Thank you so much. Okay, I do have a couple of concerns. My first concern was the congestion on the Twin Bridges. Just wondering if there was any further studies done of the impact of the increase in traffic and I've noticed the other day, it happens quite often now compared to what it used to. 4 and 5 times a day, 2 in the morning, 5 in the morning. And now both sides of the bridges are like there's traffic for miles, stagnant, just stopped. I've also noticed a lot of more pollutant. And with the salt, that the runoff, I guess fly off would be the word. It's causing a lot of problems for my house. I see a lot more evidence on my windows, my cars. There's stuff like the drain holes in my cars are having to be cleaned out 2 and 3 times a year. My windows are coated in some crystal. I'm assuming it's salt with the soot. And there's a big increase compared to previous years. I'm concerned about the health of the people in the point. Environmentally, have there any studies been done? Are we looking at what it does, what it's doing to the area? Also the traffic on the highway. When it gets overly congested, the trucks will come onto the off-going lanes. So, when you get off on Indian and whatnot, causing issues getting off and on. Okay, so that's one. And then I want to discuss the laneway behind me. I don't have access to Michigan as a driveway. I only have the laneway behind me. One of the issues is every year there's a pothole right at the end of my driveway and it's caused damage to my BMW because it has running flat wheels. Also, the coming out of the laneway when now March, since things have opened up downtown, it's quite dangerous. The oncoming traffic is really hard to see. And I'm just wondering if we can put a traffic mirror on a post so we can see the traffic coming on.
Okay, any questions then from council?
Just a question, would it help if that's a 50 km/h area now, all the way down? Would it help if it's, I know it's a lot more than that. I live in Michigan as well.
Yeah.
Would it help if reducing the speed limit in that area?
I don't think that
That would,
people follow very much of, like, I watch it daily. There's a lot of traffic now compared to what it used to be. I think that mirror would really help seeing the oncoming traffic. And it would be a really simple solution and very
Yeah.
save cost. I would love to see that, because I do have a lot of even going out onto Victoria sometimes is difficult.
Christmas, Paul?
More of a comment. Lived here my whole life, and issues with the bridge and the traffic have always come up. There have been studies done. There have been pollution monitors done over the years, and I don't have that data in front of me, but people have brought it up. There's been suggestions as far as trying to marshal the trucks further down the highway and then have them cross over without stopping. The only issue that we run into is the US government, because they don't necessarily always want to participate in things like that. And we haven't been able to find a way. And I know it has been addressed through our MP and through our MPP. And over the years, it's come up and it continues to come up. We can try it again and see if there's anything that they can do. I know as far as the use of salt goes, if they ever come up with something better, I know everybody would be happy because of the effect it has on vehicles and roads and on plumbing too. But I think we're kind of stuck with that right now.
Well, it's caused significant damage to my house, my driveway. I put a lot of money into my house, as you all know. And my driveway is peeling, and it's because of the salt. I've been told it's because of the salt. It's literally, I put it in a couple of years ago, and they say it's about a 10-year-old driveway because of what's happening, and it's peeling. So, we're talking about $100,000 in cement work. I was told by the bridge authority, they came over and they said there'd be resolution, but they never got back to me. And when the construction was going on, I had them to my house because it was literally pouring some soot. And I believe it was the engineer came over with one of the contractors and promised me they'd come and clean all my house. They never did. So I've been dealing with them as well. They're not backing up what they're saying to me, but I think I see it more than anybody because I'm right underneath. In the past, it's never been this bad. As far as the traffic, I really strongly suggest that we possibly can ask, because they take the 2 center lanes up, can we ask that they move over so that there's 2 clear lanes on the highway? Because when they take those 2 center lanes up, they also come into the 3rd lane. And then the lane over here on the far left, nobody can get into it. And if they're in there, they're stuck.
I know I travel that road every day.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I have made the suggestion before, because when you continue over the bridge, the truck lane is the left lane, and I couldn't understand the crisscross and the logic behind that. And I was told that it would be looked into, but so far, nothing really has happened.
Service board. Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. So Jim's just gonna comment, both the police service board and the village have sent letters to the ministry, and we speak regularly with the OPP. Do you want us to elaborate on that?
So about the issues on the 402 and kind of to see if there's any better way of marshaling the traffic or how, better use of lanes and not, there's never been any discussion about pollution from it. It's more about safety on the highway and, making sure that the local lane is left accessible as much as they can. And that the outside lane, like there's one of the suggestions was moving things to the left as you're coming in, and that would prevent different like pedestrian or vehicular passenger traffic from needing to cross paths with transports. And the ministry is looking for solutions right now. Whether they're going to come up with anything or not, I don't know, but it's something that we've definitely brought to their attention. Part of the problem is the way it's aligned on the bridge is transports on the right, passenger vehicles on the left. So that's why it's that way on the highway. So there'd have to be some kind of a switch. Theoretically, if you're going to change it out on the highway, you need to change it in the bridge plaza too. So
It's actually the other way,
the other way around.
because the US side, when you cross at
On
Customs,
transport,
all
yeah.
the transport trucks get diverted to the left and passenger traffic is on the right.
Right.
But
So there is a
Yeah.
crossover there, which I've never been able to
Yeah.
understand why they do it that way.
But the local traffic is the far right, so that doesn't make sense either. Cause when you go look at the local traffic sign, it's at the far left, right. And then if they go into those lanes, which they do, I've been there, they've done it, then it cuts off, cuts off all the traffic all the way down, all the way to Indian Road.
Yeah.
And I, to expand on that too, I know we've raised this with the OPP and they've done much more enforcement, and I don't see it happening like it was, trucks sitting there,
Mhm.
and I know the bridge have turned trucks back that use the local lane.
Yes.
They've actually punished them by making them go back and try it again. I know trucks that have livestock and other goods can use that lane, so you may see a truck there occasionally, but they've really clamped down on that, and it has improved.
And maybe, but the problem is them getting into that lane. They have to cut people off if oncoming traffic is, I've been there. So when they move into that lane, it's very slow going. And even though we're going 70 kilometers an hour, it's still quite dangerous.
I would say it's certainly an issue that's on our radar, and we're working with the ministry to
Okay.
try to find solutions.
So can we go back to the pollutant then? Because I don't,
Sorry, I
like,
have my hand up.
Yeah, I just, Mayor Hand has a comment. Go ahead, Mary.
Sorry. We're working with the group. We met with a number of people from the ministry and the highway. And one of the issues they're looking at is changing some signage as well to make sure that everything's clear, everything's marked out to prevent trucks and others from going in the wrong area. And as far as the enforcement, any vehicle that's found breaking the rules is fined and returned to the end of the line if those occasions are happening. So it's very costly to a truck driver that gets caught and fined and sent to the end. So they are doing a lot more enforcement, I would say. And they recently just sent some information. They're still working on the signage changes.
And then just to loop back onto Holder Lane, this, Jim, either you or Mike, but have we repaired the potholes at the end of her driveway or looked at them? Because I drove through there a couple times. I didn't see
they
much.
did last year, but it's ongoing. It's at this time of year, it's always a pothole and it's right at the end of my driveway. So, I mean, it's the only out I have. Last year I hit it and it caused damage to my vehicle. So it usually takes time for someone to come and do it, but ideally I'd like to see it repaved because it's in a really bad state. It's very brittle.
But like, just comment on the maintenance of that
Yes,
section?
no, thank you through the mayor. We won't, due to the weather conditions right now, it's, thank you.
Even that front chair is good.
Thank
Yeah.
Yes, due to the weather conditions as it stands right now, it's not conducive to do heavy pothole. Reconstruction, just because what'll happen is it will pop, it'll come out, again, any initial rains will run it out. Once it gets warmer, we will be able to come and do a further patch. I am looking at doing a full village-wide road analysis in terms of identifying the most crucial aspects of what roads need to be done in terms of the greatest amount of damage or potholes or cracks that are necessary. I have walked that road and I have taken a look. You are correct. There are some heavy potholes into that space, and I have spoken to our Public Works Department to make sure that they can provide as much mitigation to the problem as they can at the moment. And then we can look into further repavement as it comes forward.
I would like to see it repaved.
Mm.
Because, there's another issue that I have, and I brought it to Jim's attention, if it's okay, if I can add it. The neighbor has parking cement stoppers or whatever they're called. I'm not sure what they are, just the curb things.
Yep.
They, I believe, are actually on township property, not on his property, because when I look at it, it doesn't look like they're on his property, but they also have caused me issues.
Okay,
They're not in the right place.
we'll leave that with Mike and Jim to look into that.
Okay.
And then regarding the egress onto Michigan, you did mention Victoria. Would it not be better for you just to exit at Victoria and then go up to a controlled intersection to get to Michigan?
I think I have been doing that, but technically I think that's a one way. I think
At this point, it's not.
it's not, but I have been doing that in the past. I don't always do it, but even down Victoria, it's hard to see oncoming traffic.
Well, the fence there, I'm surprised that we allowed that 6-foot fence to be built right at the corner, because when I drove through it, I noticed that as well, that you can't see to the left at all till you're on the sidewalk,
I
so.
just think, like as simple as a mirror on that post across, any liability or anybody leaving that laneway would benefit from it.
Mhm.
Because they're not even parking in the parking spots, they're parking in the designated spots they're not supposed to park in.
Because that is an option, is to
Yeah.
ask staff to look into making it one way, so that everyone exits onto Victoria into a calmer traffic situation. Yeah, but more frequently, yeah, like especially this time of year, but that's an option as well, as one way out that way, or even maintaining two-way, but closing off the Michigan Avenue end, right?
Is there a reason, are you opposed to a mirror on that?
No,
Okay.
no, not opposed, I just don't, we'll look into that as well, yeah, we'll let staff come back with
Yeah.
some suggestions, yeah. Okay, anything else then? Any other questions? So that'll all get referred to staff. They'll come back to the appropriate committee with some recommendations regarding your concerns, and we'll see where you're.
Are we gonna look into that?
I don't know how it gets, is it
Yeah,
within our
you've been-
municipal mandate?
It's not really. I mean, you've been dealing with the Bridge Authority. I mean,
It's a problem.
Well,
It's-
it's a problem, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? You can't move the bridge.
Yeah.
You can't stop the traffic on it, like. I mean, and not that we're not open to solutions, but. I'm not sure what can be done about it. It's.
Now, there is some thought that the Gordie Howe Bridge opening may reduce some of the traffic on our bridges right now. Our truck traffic went way up because the Ambassador Bridge increased their tolls, and we are a good route. Gordie Howe Bridge is coming with competitive rates, and it may, nobody knows, but it may affect traffic and reduce it, but there's no guarantee of that.
So they don't have any compensation for damaging my house? That's the question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Hand can add more, because she's had a lot of meetings with the Bridge Authority.
but I'm talking past practice.
Yep.
The bridge cleaned a house. You're aware of this, Greg, because you know the
Yep.
people.
Yes, I do, yeah.
That house was cleaned by the Blue Water Bridge, not by the village. So they had put in a request to have their house cleaned, and it was cleaned on Alexandra.
And they promised me the same, but they haven't, and this is why I'm here. I'm wondering what it is that we can do as a community, that they take responsibility. I mean, clearly there's, I would say triple the amount of traffic on that bridge from the day I moved in, at least
Well,
triple.
I'm not talking about the
There's that.
traffic per
Well,
se, I'm talking about the house.
okay, but what I'm saying is they have promised, so how do we enforce that? Like, how do we as a community? They promised that they would, but they haven't.
So I guess the best bet is we can have Jim give you the
Yeah.
our bridge contacts,
Okay.
their emails and phone numbers, and then you can share
And I can
that.
follow up with them directly, like
Okay,
I will
Yeah.
talk to them for sure.
Yeah.
Be something I'd be
Yeah.
looking forward to, yeah.
And then if you email them, just copy Jim on your
Okay.
correspondence, and then Jim can be in the loop, and we can at least be monitoring what your
Okay.
interactions are with the bridge.
I'm good with that.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good with that. Thank you. Thank you.
all right.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you for your
Thank you
time.
so
Thanks for coming in. Okay, so we now move on to item 7, which is the adoption of minutes, and that's the minutes from our February 24th, 2026 meeting.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Noctor. Any questions on the minutes? I just have one question. So the last meeting, the real estate sign people were here, and you were gonna bring forth a bylaw,
Yeah.
which there's no rush on that,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering if we can get 2 options or 2 versions of the bylaw. So one that includes their requested exemption for open house signs, and another one that outright bans signs in the boulevard completely with either a penalty or some sort of whatever, but having them be outright. Like, so we can look at 2 versions and make a decision that day.
Yeah, off the top, what I would do is just put a clause in there for both.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay, so if we can just make sure that comes forward, that way, so, okay. All in favor then? Yes. Harry? Thank you, Marianne. Next item are financial reports, item 10. I'm just looking for somebody who can move item 10.1 on my behalf.
I can,
Okay.
Paul?
yeah, I have it open here. Move that the total revenues and general operations for the month of February 2026 in the amount of $2,372,785 be approved, and that the total expenditures and general operations for the month of February 2026 in the amount of $346,551.06 be approved.
Thank you. And I see seconded by Mayor Hand.
Oh, okay.
I saw her, sorry.
It's okay.
All in favor?
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, sorry, my.
On to grants, county policing. Grants normally $17,964. We received $13,266. Is that what, our final payment for this year? Cause that's about 73%. Or do we expect more?
What's the account number, Councillor Mondu?
It's 01
Mhm.
6400 0004.
I don't have an answer for you right
Okay.
now, but I'll get you one.
Okay, great, thanks.
Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Sorry, wasn't there the one grant that was going to not be paid anymore? My memory serves me that there was something that was going to expire. And I think it was related to traffic stop,
Policing?
Right,
traffic stops, ride programs.
All right.
Yeah, that, you're right, that program. So with the ride program, we are lumped in with the Lantern Group Card now, so it's one. So it doesn't show up on our revenues. We don't have a revenue or an expense for it. That is not related to this
Okay,
line item, though.
okay.
This is separate.
Yeah.
I have another question if I could.
go right ahead.
Let's see, software license fee. It's 135%.
This is for mesh, I believe.
No, that's not mesh. That's been fixed.
Okay.
Remember there was talk of
I read that.
it's been split. Now this one here, we're at 34,000 and we budgeted 25,500. And then like we're 9,000 over.
Okay, again,
Just
can I,
minutes.
don't have an answer for
Okay.
right now. Can you give me the account number and I'll,
Okay, I'll give you the account number, 01-70-20-0300.
Okay.
And I got one more.
okay.
Fire away.
Wages for firefighters on weekends.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 64% and we're only in March.
That's, I'm sure that is one where I don't know exactly what, but
Well, actually, it's in
certain things
February.
are being charged the wrong account.
Okay.
So it's like, if it's weekend coverage being charged to, there'll be another account that's lower than it should be, I believe.
Okay.
'Cause I did notice that the other day.
There's
as well.
nothing out of point pay or anything yet. I'm just bringing it up so that we don't lose
Yeah.
track of it.
Point pay won't take, that doesn't
won't
happen
be.
until June or July.
Okay.
Yeah,
You need that account number? Or
I know those ones.
you're aware of that one?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's all my questions.
Okay, so all in favor? Okay, thank you, that's carried. Environmental Services, financial report.
I'll move that the total revenues and environmental services for the month of February 2026 in the amount of $38 be approved. And that the total expenditures and environmental services for the month of February 2026 in the amount of $133,789.95 be approved. And that updated financial statements for the month of January 2026 showing revenues of $677,022.44 and expenditures of $130,602.30 be received and filed.
Seconder. Doctor, thank you.
They may be, that firefighter issue will be, I'm sure, because the change in program we made to make contributions to firefighters RSPs is supposed to be charged to benefits, and that has been paid out and it's not reflected there.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that it probably somehow got charged to the weekend account
Okay.
instead of the benefit account, but I will verify that.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Got a second for that? Yeah.
yeah, I got a seconder yet. So any questions on environmental services, financial reports? Seeing none? It's all right, that's okay.
Step.
Yeah, yeah, all in favor? Thank you, that's carried.
Bev's got her hand. Oh, that was to be all in favor.
Yep,
That was
okay.
voting.
So we'll move on to committee reports. Operations Committee is the first report.
I'll move that the minutes of the Operations Committee meeting held March the 10th, 2026 be approved as circulated.
Thank you.
One highlight that I wanted to talk about right away was the recommendation number 6 was that no changes be made in the existing bylaw regarding residential parking on driveway aprons. So everybody's aware of that. And our manager gave us a very detailed report on the reasons why. And if anybody has any questions about it, I'm sure Mike would be happy to field those questions. And then the other highlight on that was we had a detailed report on park rentals, ball diamonds, and other athletic facilities, which we're not going to implement until 2027, but there's quite a bit of information on that.
Yeah.
Can I get clarification on parking vehicles on driveway aprons? We do not allow it or we do allow it?
We do not allow it.
Do not allow it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I just have a couple if I may. I noticed there was a new business of the arena opening on statutory holidays and Mike was going to look into that. I just wanted to, I know it said we were going to do some analysis on expense versus revenue, which is good. But I think we also need to ensure that we include the work-life balance part of that. Those employees work a lot of nights, weekends, and that should also be a factor in determining that moving forward, personally. The other one was the apron parking. It's funny, since we started talking about it, I'm finding people are parking all over the aprons, all over the village. So I think we may need to do a constant contact or some sort of reminder and education. It just seems like all of a sudden it's become Yeah, so anyway, so we can somehow communicate that out to
Mhm.
people from an educational, before we get into any enforcement. And then I haven't had a chance to read the report on the user fees for green spaces and parks, so I will read that and maybe bring my questions to a future meeting. But if we spoke to Pima about how this may affect their soccer program, is the,
In terms of the rentals, thank you. Through the mayor, deputy mayor, thank you, sorry. The report was strictly for ball diamonds at this point.
Okay.
I have been directed to take a look at other municipal facilities to determine, yes, that they be strictly for the ball diamonds.
and I said, it assumes in the report, sorry, I didn't read it, but
Mhm.
and how would we do bookings and enforcement? Like the arena, it's easy to enforce because you just don't get on the ice if you haven't paid, but you elaborate on that a bit.
Again, thank you. Again, one of the biggest details that we've seen to date is enforcement. It is done in itself. If somebody has currently booked that time, I've not heard of any issues in terms of people using that and then coming and saying that, well, we have this time from 6 to 9. Is I know it's been booked. We can put further documentation up on the structures behind the backstop to let everybody know what that looks like.
Mhm.
We'll let everybody in the community understand. If necessary, there will be well, not a complaint hotline, but if someone is having a challenge, they can be directed to call the police to help identify this within the bylaw, which would necessarily be changed to be able to. report this.
And to add to it, that would go on today.
Mhm.
If there's a Thursday night league
Right.
that has the diamond and I show up with, my kids and we're out there playing and someone might say, oh, we have it booked, whether they pay for it or not. So
Right, okay,
That's
it does exist.
yeah,
Yes.
And it's been pretty decent so far.
Mhm. Absolutely.
okay, that's all. Mayor Hand, do you have a question or no?
No, I've never heard any issues. Like there's several leagues that are playing regularly, that have been playing regularly, and I've never heard of any complaints of interference. Like it seems to work fairly smoothly. And then I say it'd be different paperwork if we go to this costing system.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I sort of meant,
Mhm.
just how, if there's two teams over there playing, how do we enforce that they didn't pay? Like at 7 at night, there's two teams having a game. Like,
I'll pull together a proper methodology in terms of a structure in a proposal.
Okay.
On how everything will be done, and it'll use existing methodologies from the other regions. So in Lambton County, we were the only ones really not enforcing something along this line. So there's a lot of history that we can build on.
all in favor? Carried, thank you. Fire committee,
I will move that the minutes of the fire committee meeting held March 10th, 2026 be approved as circulated.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So work is underway in the basement of the fire hall, just little bits and pieces that they're able to pull together at this point in time. Everyone's pitching in, and it's making a big difference down there. It's wonderful to see. Rescue truck 3, the issue ended up being something a little bit different than what was expected, so more conversation to come on that. And there are a few upcoming events. The fire hall is collecting cereal boxes. They're competing in a cereal box challenge with Bridgeview Elementary School. Will you remind me what time they can drop cereal off at the fire station?
Any daytime hours until 4. Donations for cereal.
So between 8 and 4, you can drop off donations of cereal boxes at the fire hall in Point Edward.
oh, boxes, right?
Please, unopened boxes.
What's the deadline before the competition?
It's gonna be mid-April.
Mid-April.
Okay, thank you.
I can get you an exact date.
Thank you.
Some of our fire department will also be participating in the Special Olympics basketball game, April 2nd. The age-friendly event on May 6th in Point Edward, and Learn to Fish Day on May 30th.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. Environmental Services,
I'll move that the minutes of the Environmental Services Committee meeting held March 10th, 2026 be approved as circulated.
seconder, Councilor Burgess.
I've got a few highlights if I could.
Yes, please.
Okay. MES is awaiting an update from Associated Engineering on the digester project, which has been a highlight for us over the last number of years. So
Interesting adjective. But go ahead.
yes, we've talked about it many times. And also staff are considering adding a provisional item to repave the parking lot during the construction at Waterfront Park entrance. So that would coincide with paving of other streets in the village when it happens. St. Clair Street, Michigan Ave between Christina and Front. And that would give us a favorable price. They're gonna look into that. So do it all at once.
Just, that's repaving the parking lot,
Parking
the
lot.
whole waterfront.
Waterfront parking lot,
Nice.
correct. Yep. And later in the meeting, we're gonna talk about the sewer relining quote on St. Clair Street. And that there was an issue with mesh pricing or costing on the financial statements, and I see that's been corrected. And that was thank you very much for financial for that. And that's all my highlights.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Finance Committee, if we can I can get somebody to move that for me.
Sure, I'll do it.
Councilor Burgess,
Move that the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held March the 10th, 2026 be approved as circulated.
thank you. Seconded by Mayor Hand. Is that, you up for that? Thank you.
I can do that now.
I don't think I have any highlights. Just double check.
It was a fairly quick one.
Yes, it was. We just, and I think everybody's aware, we did talk about the asset management plan and whether we require one as detailed as what it came up as an article about Sarnia's. And then email went out today about the 150th anniversary. So we are looking for community members that would like to participate in helping organize events. And then we will be shortly sending out a constant contact about the memorial flower baskets. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Miscellaneous reports.
I'll move item 1.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilor Mondu. Any questions?
Full steam ahead on the environmental services building now with that permit. We're getting a nod from Jay. Thank you.
Oh, I see there's a second one. Did that just get added? The second? That wasn't there earlier, the tent rental. But that's good. Yeah, I thought so, yeah. All right, all in favor of receiving and filing? Thank you. It's carried. Next up are the annual minister reports for our drinking water and stormwater management.
I'll move that the ministry reports for environmental services be received and filed. Items 1 through 4 there. There's 4 reports.
Seconded by Councilor Noctor. Any questions or comments of Jay? Questions to Jay?
I have a comment.
Yep.
I want to thank Jen and Jay for that work because I know it's tough slugging. It's tedious going through that work to get that work done, but they had a good result. So thank you very much.
I always feel bad when people put all that effort into a report and we don't ask a question, but I guess it means the report was well presented and no concern. So, all right, all in favor of receiving and filing? Thank you. Under communications, receive and file. So I think we'll do 1 to 4. Is that okay?
Sure.
Councilor Burgess will move 1 to 4. Seconder,
I'll second that.
Councilor Mondu. All in favor? Okay. Looking for a move of number 5.
I'll take number 5.
Moved by Councilor Mondu, seconder, their hand.
That's the minutes of the Lambton County Regional Trails Committee from January. I've got a couple highlights.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mentioned previously that we were going to get rid of our charitable status for that committee, and that's been done. The funds were donated to the county, and there's restrictions on that the Lambton County Regional Trails Committee can use that money to take it down to a zero budget. And there are plans to do a map in the next little while. Future planning, there is a housing and homelessness plan or seminar being scheduled for May 15th at the Sarnia Shared Services downtown. And I'm unable to make it, so I'm looking if somebody wants to contact me about going, I can get you some information on that. It's going to be about trails, it's going to be housing, it's going to be active transportation, it's going to be a whole day long seminar that they're going to get hopefully all the municipalities members from our committee will be there and learn as a whole. So
When was that again?
that's May 15th.
That's Friday.
It's a Friday, yes. So anybody interested, let me know and we'll get you that information. Okay, thank you. And that's all
I
I
was
had.
planning on attending
Okay,
because
Anybody else?
like we talked about it at the county.
yes, yes. Okay,
I'll just check my schedule.
Okay. yep.
Any other questions? None, all in favor? That's carried. Number 6 is the letter from the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, which is the response to our letter regarding commercial property, Blue Box Streets pickup. Mover,
I'll move that.
Councilor Wondu, second by Councilor Noctor. Any questions or comments?
I just want to make a comment. We need to develop a plan for what we're gonna do in 2027. So just,
You reading my screen?
yeah. So great minds think alike. Anyways, just make sure, don't want to lose that, so we forget. We could document that, put it on our task list or something.
Yeah, so I'd said it was good to see a response, at least.
Yes.
To our letter, and they acknowledge that they give consideration to picking up the ICI properties. And I also wrote, I'd like to just see this added to our task list so that we can make a decision early this year. And that if we're gonna transfer it to those property owners, that we give them enough notice.
Okay.
of-
I just have one thing
Yep.
too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did talk to a small business owner in the village who said some of those initial kinks didn't work out and that they were happy that they were heard.
Okay, and they're okay with the Friday pickup and everything?
Yeah, but it was just that initial kind of had a few questions, but managed to sort things out.
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Number 7, mover and a seconder, please. This is the Christian Farmers, Councilor Noctor, and second by Mayor Hand.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments?
I had a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I still think no one's looking at the option of, as we've suggested to Cargill, they buy that property and then they can have a parkette and truck laydown area, and then we can all live together. As these gentlemen are saying that the municipality can't, the development can't coexist. So no one's suggesting that they're ignoring the other option.
Thank you. I was gonna ask whether we should be replying to this letter and outlining some of the things that were addressed during the appeal with the city of Sarnia and what the developer is doing as far as the building specifications, or should we not enter into a back and forth? Because we made several concessions during that appeal with the city of Sarnia,
Right.
with the new roadway and other issues, and then
Right.
The developer is planning noise mitigation, thicker windows, brick construction. So I don't know if we
Right.
should be addressing this.
The group came, a group came to my office, and I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. And it was from the Lambton County Farmers. And I told them all of that about you know, the windows and the berm and sidewalks and things like that. So they said, they thanked us for the information and they were going to meet with Cargill later. But I think one thing that hasn't been stressed is if the other option is if they buy the land, the developer gets something for his investment
Mhm.
and Cargill gets the land that, you know, gets the protection that they're looking for. Since they did say they had the money.
So as far as sending them a response to this, we should acknowledge the letter at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, the key to this, the whole thing is the MZO. Like, why are we
Right.
going to an MZO?
Mhm.
There is a regular planning process that can be followed, and that's the process that should be used, not circumventing the local process by a minister's zoning order. So I would say let's think on that.
Okay.
And yeah,
Sure.
I wouldn't say no to sending a letter, but I think I want to give some thought to what the response should be.
And I think if we do, it should
Okay.
be very brief and succinct.
Yeah.
And say, we've received and filed it. A lot of action has taken place to address this.
Mhm.
And we were openly say we were surprised that the MZO was an option.
Yeah.
Like, sort of like leave it at that. Mary?
I'm feeling that all of the publications and everything that's the communications has all been one-sided in my mind in most recently. They put an ad in the paper, they're promoting themselves, the agriculture's, you know, the people are working with them. I think they're losing sight of our side of the issue. That's my personal feeling.
Okay.
They have lobbying
Yep.
going on.
So the motion is to receive and file, but
Maybe,
And prepare a letter. A response.
yeah, I would say the motion should be to table it
okay,
and
Okay.
and to receive a potential response back to them. And I'll send it out to everybody to review.
fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, so the mover and seconder okay with that? Who was that?
Yep.
Okay, I know
Me.
Bev was the
Thank-
seconder.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, okay, okay, so everyone's in favor. Okay, so all in favor? That's carried, thank you. New business, first one is the MECP update regarding conservation authorities. Who wants to move and second it? I'll give a quick update.
I'll move.
Councillor Mondu, Councillor Burgess. So this PowerPoint was what was presented to myself and the chairs of the conservation authorities. They have reduced the number of regional CAs, so St. Clair Conservation Authority will merge with Upper and Lower Thames. We have a very good relationship with both of those conservation authorities. It does make sense, but it will still present significant challenges just based on the size of the board and the scope of the area that we'll be responsible for. The Conservation Ontario AGM is next month and more details will be brought forward and I'll be attending that. The letter writing campaign to the ministry were noticed and some of the changes that happened are directly related to some of the letters that municipalities and others wrote. Sadly, we're going to lose our voice at the CA because the board will be made up of representatives from Upper Thames, Lower Thames, St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, and they will be appointed at the upper tier level. So the appointments will be at the county, in our case, Lambton County level. And we suspect we'll have 5, maybe 6 representatives for our area on this board. So that means there'll be 5 or 6 people from Lambton County. And then there will also be people from Windsor and Essex that will be on this board. So the hyper-local Lambton County approach to dealing with this watershed will be diminished. So that's the update there.
Okay.
But I'll keep bringing stuff forward as we hear it. So any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, item 2 under new business is the comprehensive review of winter maintenance and ice mitigation for roadways, sidewalks, and pathways throughout the village of Port Edward. We'll invite Mike up to the desk. The recommended motion is that council provide direction, so we'll let Mike present first and then we'll work on a motion.
Okay, thank you. As this is a rather lengthy report, I won't read
Yeah,
verbatim what's going on,
yeah.
so I'll sort of give a brief summary. As the deputy mayor mentioned, that I'm looking for council's direction on this. The purpose of the report was really to just understand what the current practice of maintenance and ice mitigation is within the village and all the municipal roadways and such. And then to exclude anything that's currently privately owned. The background, I just wanted to identify some of the legislative responsibilities that are identified in that municipality, the Municipal Act, just identifying how the Municipal Act allows municipalities to determine their responsibility for snow removal and ice mitigation, as well as how they can then direct the individual private owners to be able to have that same mitigation responsibility. From this, we did talk about, I did identify that in 2021-22, there was a formal maintenance policy that was presented, and it was reviewed and reduced last year to the 24-25 pathway policy, just giving a highlight of what that policy was. One of the two things that were not identified so strictly was the levels of service in that 24-25, as well as the criteria for including any other additional maintenance routes. Again, we broke down the current practice as it is seen in terms of the roadways, pathways, sidewalks that are maintained by the village staff, as well as a comprehensive map to detail that. Sidewalks maintained by residents. It also gives some identification on what is responsible for them. And then I broke down what the minimum maintenance standards were in terms of the province. So any snowfall exceeding 8 centimeters, it has to be cleared within a 48-hour period. That is considered the minimum maintenance standard. The village has far exceeded that, and that is the level of standards is far beyond that at this point. Understanding some of the limitations that we have run into in terms of the sidewalks within the village are there various sizes, only 24, 36, 48, all different sizes. And many of them are more narrow than standard, as it can be seen. Our current snowplow equipment has both the capability of a 36 and a 48-inch blade, which is very practical for our pathways, but not practical for a number of the sidewalks within the village.
Can I pause you there for one
Certainly
second?
can, please.
So each time we bring this report forward,
Mhm.
we fail to include the snow blower that we bought to address the limitations with the plows.
Mhm.
So it's not in here again.
It's the snow blower still does not, it's still larger than 24 inches.
Right, but it will allow us to clear the sidewalks without like doing damage, right?
It will do damage to the boulevards of the grass on each side of
Okay.
it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges we run into.
Okay, carry on.
Again, that's identifying those specific aspects in the recommendations for improvement. We can address some of the equipment limitations, the resources as brought up in terms of the work-life balance is a challenge. When it's heavy snow events that we have all hands on deck quite a bit to be able to mitigate that, and our staff is extremely diligent to be able to respond to that. Enhanced residential communications. As we did send out that communication this year, it was incredible to see the participation within the village to be able to support the number of snowfalls that we had and to be able to walk many clean sidewalks in the area. Expand annual reminders, clarifying responsibilities, as well as conducting the annual and route service review, which I am doing previous to every single snow year that's going on. So. And then assessing any, again, additional staffing, equipment, budgets, and then potential levels of service changes. So I broke down some financial summaries. I didn't go into full costing, but I did indicate what would be a potential low cost measure versus a potential high cost measure. In the background documentation, I do have some numbers. It is challenging in terms of sidewalks because there's never been a study that I can find within the province which represents a municipality or a village our size to give that. So there's a lot of hypotheticals in that, but there is some financial numbers which support the cost categories that have been identified here for some of the recommendations between formal maintenance policies, upgrading or outsourcing, residential communication enhancements, staffing evaluations, that type of thing. So in conclusion, the current winter maintenance approach relies heavily on past practice and available resources to improve operational clarity, reduce liability exposure, and then also to ensure the constant levels of service. Staff recommend some limited to address some of the equipment limitations, as well as more of a robust documentation practice, which I'm planning to put into place. So of the four, I created four options in terms of what council should consider. One is just adopting the existing recommendations as above. That is, as it stands right now, we have the past practice. I will continue to update the documentation. We'll continue to review our staffing and our equipment. We have the approved map, as well as the annual review process. Implications of doing such things: there's a clear and defensible winter maintenance frequency or framework, reduces liabilities in terms of risk, will improve operational efficiency, as well as some long-term planning for staffing and infrastructure as it comes through, as well as increasing transparency. That's option one. Financial is low to high depending on equipment. That's really the biggest one in terms of that. Option two is to reduce the current standard. So the standard currently is that the village does provide a number of sidewalk maintenance clearing for businesses within the village. Option two is to remove all businesses, and we just do municipally owned properties, sidewalks, pathways. With that, the implications of such would be clear communication with the businesses, expectations of their snow removal and ice mitigation timelines, and what materials would be necessary to do that, increase transparency, and then understanding what the levels of service they would have to maintain at that point, as well as ensure long-term planning for them. Risks: higher liability, higher exposure and liability due to the formalization of standards, as well as the service expectations would have to be very well defined within those businesses to make sure that we're meeting that. There would be cost reduction, as the staff and equipment would be used less, and potential less overtime, and potential less cost to operate and salt within those particular areas. Option three is to increase the current status and include all businesses. So the staffing recommendation here is to hold the current past practice, but yet increase some businesses that are currently not benefiting from having the sidewalk removal process. Again, clear defensible framework, reduces liabilities, so very similar implications. Risk, there could be some potential strong feedback, as the businesses would be, we would be increasing to some businesses that currently don't have it. Operational limitations, we'd have to look at this different sidewalks and areas and potentially make some changes to some equipment to be able to support that. But I think that the risks will be medium to low in terms of costing. And then finally, the fourth implication is to do all sidewalks and pathways within the village. And that would be to increase that improvement. So staff, we're looking at a full village-wide maintenance plan to complete all sidewalk and ice mitigation for every pathway and every sidewalk. Implications would be looking at liabilities, current staffing levels, equipment shortfalls that we have. Complicated long-term planning would be required to be able to complete this. Increased transparency for all residents, including service levels, including media, additional communications. The risk, higher operational limitations. The operations to be able to complete that under current staffing levels and equipment would be a great challenge. Supporting and tracking documentation from residents, businesses, feedbacks to reduce higher levels of exposure, as initially talked about, gross negligence, in the sense if there are areas that have not been attended to within a specific maintenance standard, we'd have to have a very strong tracking methodology to make sure that we are responding to that as necessary to reduce our liability for any slips and falls or that type of thing. And then there with the potential in our current state to have reduced service levels, so we would reduce back closer to the MMS, which would kind of conflict with our current practice of how our snow removal. Financial would be high. We would be looking at some more operational costs, and specifically for equipment, potentially some additional staffing if that was something to be looked at. I would like to add that this report talks at multiple snow levels, but this particular year was an extreme level, as I've seen it. I've only been with the village for 2 years. I don't have the history to be able to identify in terms of trends, but being residents of the region here, I know that this year was a higher snow level than we've seen in quite a while, so.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any questions?
I just got
Go ahead.
a couple comments. And we're an aging population. And based on, I got some demographics for the village. 32% of the village population is 65 or older. And the age trend has gone from 47.7 in 2016 to 55.2 in 2021. This is based on 2021 census. And over 50% of our population are 55 or older. So we're basically a senior community, right? And also on the health side, if you're over 45 years old and you not used to a lot of activity, snow shoveling is very dangerous for your health, right? So that's just something that I think we should keep in mind when we make some of these decisions, because we're not, we are an older population, and I'm looking around the room here and there's a few of us that are older. So anyways, like, just keep that in mind, right? Because I know this year it was a struggle for me to shovel, right? There's a few times there where I did a little path and then I'd go back, and it was not an easy, but I know this is not an average year, so I'm just saying, when we make a decision, I'd like to see us keep that in mind as well, because Point Edward is aging.
Okay, any other questions, comments? I just have a couple, or going to something, or?
I have questions, but
look.
I'm not sure if they're specific to Mike's report. I'm looking, I would like to look at it very locally. And I think of some businesses that own their property versus a small business who rents in a cluster of businesses, and how that might be different. And then, for example, the Helena Street area where there's several businesses side by side, but Helena Street comes out to the intersection of Louisa. And does that all need to be done by those businesses? It's kind of, there's a lot of gray area in it for me. I don't know whose responsibility that would be. And if I own my business, my building, is it different? Is my liability different than the landowner or landlord of a plaza that has rentals? Is there any liabilities with stuff like that? You don't have it off the top of your head. It's just something I'm thinking about.
No, I can certainly take that back. From previous understanding and experience with any business, whether it be a rental or be something that's owned, the responsibility of the maintenance, the clearing will typically fall on the ownership of that particular. So if it's the ownership of the plaza and they're renting it out, that ownership model would be responsible for paving for any damage done to curbs, any damage done to lighting that was within that plaza, or snow removal or garbage removal or what have you, that type of thing. But it's something I can certainly take back and identify a little bit further.
Okay.
Mary Hand, go ahead.
Just a question, like if it's residential rental, it's in the lease that the responsible for the maintenance, which includes snow removal. So you're saying it's opposite. If it's a business, it's the owner that's responsible?
It will depend. Thank you, Mayor Hand. It will depend on the lease agreement. You're right. From a business, it'll be very specific on the contract that is signed with that. So.
Yeah, so typically the village bylaw is going to say that the property owner adjacent to the sidewalk is responsible. If you have an agreement with a tenant that says otherwise,
Yeah.
then I would think you as the landowner should be protected.
Yes.
But our agreement, our bylaw is going to state the property owner is responsible.
And then the village would go after the property owner, who would in turn go after the tenant.
That's right.
So we would go after the property owner first.
Yes.
Anything else?
No,
Okay.
my wheels are still
Okay,
turning.
well, we'll get
I
back
just
to you then.
Continue.
So I guess my thought is this all came about because of Helena Light. and their situation. We gave them all this new sidewalk they never asked for, and who's gonna plow? And then we keep referring back to minimum standards, which I get that, and we can exceed minimum standards, right? And you said we often do. So why can we not, so if we were to take option 3, which would include Light Helena, which Florida indicated would not have a huge impact on meeting those standards. Why can we not then leave that as the minimum standards, and then between storms, put one of our 4 public works employees on the tractor with the snowboards, go for a 3-day drive and go around the village, and anywhere that a sidewalk's not been cleared because of one of the seniors that Tim mentioned couldn't get out to do it, or they're in the hospital or they're away, we just do it. And the other area that really affects people is the corners, right? A lot of people don't see the corner as their responsibility. And I know a lady that walks her dogs in a stroller and gets stuck there, right? And has to go out on the road or other places. So it's that little bit extra that, can we not include that in our minimum standards, but it's just something we do, or is it the minute we do it, it becomes part of our minimum standards?
I would say the second option would be more of the case. Once you've done it, that becomes the responsibility for you. I think having clear identification in the bylaw of what the village is responsible for is from a litigious point of view would probably be the best approach. It was something we can certainly speak to legal to find.
So if our bylaw stated that we will do this map and the new sidewalks
Mhm.
and nothing more, and that's all that we're responsible for, and that's all we're accountable for. But like I said, one of the guys after a storm goes for a drive and does all these corners, or if he sees a sidewalk that's causing problems, like right now, I know we just started now going down towards the service club driveway, right? Which is a little bit extra, but it makes sense. So can we just not do that? And then if another storm comes and we only get half the village done, well, then we just pick it up again, because it's not expected or not part of our minimum standard. So if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
I can take it back to do a further review
Okay.
to see if there's any issue in terms of setting a precedent along those lines. I
Okay.
can certainly do that.
I don't know how the rest of the council feels though. That's Mayor Hand has her hand up.
Well, I agree with, like, you do as much as you can, but we have to be careful of what we're written down that we're going to do. So in Tim's example, and I appreciate the aging population, it's always been that way in Point Edward, but the more snow we have, the more our small force is out plowing. They may have less time to do sidewalks. So I don't want to get into a situation where in those major events, they can't do the sidewalks, and then we're not fulfilling what we've said we're going to do. So I like the idea of where we do as much as we always can. Like, I know they try and do more and when they can, but it's a danger of setting a bar that you may not always be able to meet.
And that's what I was trying to get to is,
Yeah.
we maintain the 48-hour minimum standard on the identified sections. We achieve that every time. And then once that 40 hours passes, that's like, and the guys have recovered, and that's when we go out for the drive and see what we can accomplish. Okay. So is that, go ahead,
I have
sorry.
a question.
Yep.
What do we do about bus stops? Who's responsible for clearing the snow at the bus stop?
We asked that last time, and I think you said it's us,
I think
right?
that's- I
Yeah.
believe that
Yes,
is
it
in
is.
that is in the,
And fire hydrants.
This one, because it's
No.
all rocks, so.
that's
Fire hydrants is
Yep.
the resident, is it not? Is
Well,
that
I
not-
don't-
sure.
There's no bylaw on it.
Yeah,
There's no indication to know.
But I'm just wondering.
Rick does them at 3 in the morning.
Bus
when
stops.
We're all asleep.
Wouldn't surprise
There's
me.
no bylaw saying the residents have to, and we put communication out, asking them
To support
if
it.
they see one that's covered up, but try to make room around it. It's my knowledge, we don't bylaw.
Right.
Similar to catch basins.
Okay, so just if I'll just summarize quickly, to make sure we're all on the same page, that option 3 we were interested in, right, which is the inclusion of Helena and Light businesses, is that correct?
And potentially some other business.
Yeah, some others,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
but
Yes.
yeah, what any businesses we're not doing.
Mhm.
And then you're gonna get back to us with comments on whether that would be our minimum standard, and whether if we went out after and did more, if that would create any litigious precedents or any danger to us.
I will look into that, yes.
I have an issue with that. We seem to be getting too business focused. Business is important, mind you, but what about the residents? Right? Like, you're saying, okay, we'll do all these businesses in town and that, but sorry, you're out of luck. We're not gonna do your sidewalks.
No,
You know, like that's, I think that we're turning our back on our residents on this case, but not that we, we would do it. Like, it's not gonna happen immediately, but I don't know, like, that's my thinking. I think we're getting too focused on businesses have plowing contracts. They have all this stuff. So why are we focused on that when I think we should be sharing our resources out, helping out the residents more? That's just my 2 cents.
I'm sort of seeing it not that way, but that's fine. I just want to clarify that the thought here is the businesses would only be done in the 48-hour minimum standard. And then we would immediately, depending on the amount of snow, depending on when we would roll out and do any residences that aren't done. But
Have we ever done that?
I-
don't, because
I know I've seen the guys go out and clear, when we have a big storm, they go and clear the street corners sometimes with the
Yeah.
front end loader and do
Yeah, I've
the,
seen them do that.
the corners, that's
Yeah.
part of the, but it has to be a certain
Yeah.
snow level. And what we're just saying here is just drive down the sidewalk, plow through that windrow at the end of the corner to allow people to, like, wheelchairs, strollers, anything else that's out there, so. Well, it'll come back to us, right? We're not making a decision tonight. Mike's gonna come back to us,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Is that where we're headed? Is that,
Yeah,
everyone aboard with that?
Sure, I have more things rolling, but and I think about the teenage kids around trying to make $10 that our plows did that now,
Yep.
and it loses
Oh,
his
yeah.
little snow, just
Yeah.
having teenage kids, right?
Yeah.
Or I have one still,
Yep.
but just all those sorts of things come into my mind as well. Someone calls, hey, can you shovel my walk? And then, oh, sorry, the village came by and did it.
Yeah.
On your
And
way.
my concern is kind of the opposite of that, is that people, like, your concern is very valid. My concern is that we go out after 48 hours and do some residential sidewalks, and then other people quit doing them.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Because
that's,
we saw you do Ariana's, so why would I do mine?
yeah.
And not Ariana's, with any resident of the village, council member.
Yeah.
You know, and so why, you did these sidewalks, why do I bother paying the kid $10 to do mine?
Yeah.
If the village is eventually gonna come
Yeah.
on. That's,
It's the president.
it's not
Mhm.
opposite of yours.
No, it's just like I said, it's very complex.
It-
And you're right, if
It is-
the village is gonna do
it
it,
is
I'm gonna
complicated.
throw my shovel in the garbage then
Yeah.
and let them do everything, right?
And like last year, there were Michigan Avenue, there was a big section of it that was, you couldn't walk it. Like, there was a huge section, like 2 blocks over there that just snow piled up and you couldn't get through. So do you leave that forever? Or, and I guess the question is, when do we start chasing people down to clear their snow, right?
There is in the maintenance or in the original winter program, there's a specific height of snow
Right.
that you can go after the individual
Yeah.
residents to be able to do that. That is be set in the bylaw as well. So
Deputy Chief McGregor had a comment.
No, just a quick question, because the minimum standard talks about 48 hours for the village to maintain it.
eight up to 8 centimeters, and it's expected to the process to be started within 48 hours. And then if another snowfall happens, that clock will restart at that.
But then it references the residents have to do that 24-hour period, why would they be the same?
It could be set the same. It's that is completely arbitrary, set by the plan. So we could change that.
And Jay, you were waving?
Has anyone ever actually done any kind of a study to see how long would it take to do all the sidewalks in the village? If you took the
Yep.
highway with the blower and actually time it out at a certain speed, because you can blow 6 inches or 8 inches of snow, you can go pretty quick.
If as long as it's not wet, yes.
So,
Yeah,
and even though, and I'm just speaking, because Petrolia does it, Kingsville, the lots of municipalities do it. Can we figure out how much time it would take? That would help them figure, Public Works figure out how much time do we need? We've talked about it before, there's talks about staffing. There's been, I've brought it up multiple times, Kingsville used to have on-call, not contract workers, but they were seasonal on-call people. That would
Mhm.
come in, like retired people that would get trained and on heavy events, and there's other options that I think could be looked at, but you need to kind of have time frame. How much time should this take us on an average?
Yeah.
Snowfall. That
I'm
requires.
sure you could analyze how long it takes to do an average city block and,
So my 35 pages of notes I
Yeah.
didn't include into this report actually has that.
Okay.
I did do some analysis on the 35 or 30 kilometers worth of sidewalks that we have here and how long it would take that particular unit to be able to blow snow or to be able to push snow, as well as what it would take to be able to salt all those individuals with that particular unit. It's extraordinary.
okay,
Would you require salting?
yeah, that's the other question.
So that comes down to two individual areas, whether you're gonna go with what's
Bare concrete.
bare concrete versus the hard packed snow. Hard packed snow creates more of an ice issue, which will create more of a slipping issue. If the village takes that responsibility on, we will have a greater litigious issue for not being able to clear a snow path, even though it is understood in Canada and through most provinces that at this time you have to wear some footwear that will help you have traction in those type of events, but that is another concern that was raised when I did the analysis on this.
But if the bare concrete is just the areas that we put in that 48-hour window, and then the rest is snow packed.
I still think that falls under some heavy litigious.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Too. And then the other thing we have to keep in mind too is, I meant to really bring this up, is we can declare a snow event or snow emergency at any time. So if we start doing this sidewalks and then we're not gonna make it to whatever it gets stuff, well, then you just make a declaration. Minimum standards are no longer in place, and then we get caught up, right? So that's always there for us, so. Okay, any other questions at all? So just Mike's gonna bring it back. We're gonna have another debate discussion on it, and we'll go from there. So what,
I have one.
go ahead, Mary Ann. Yep.
Mike, you mentioned, when we talk about the narrow sidewalk, I think it was 24, and you said, it would be an equipment issue, but there's a potential to lease. One thing I'd be interested in is cost of lease versus purchase. And you can get that some other time when you
Yes.
come back.
I thank you, Mary Ann. I actually do have some of that documentation as
Okay.
well.
Okay, perfect.
So then the motion is to table or,
Yeah.
and then table with the expectation that a report will come back in the next council meeting?
Yeah, further investigating option number 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Understood. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
We didn't have a.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Councillor Burgess moved it, and Mayor Hand, because you aren't even thinking of snow, you can second it.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just ship everybody to Florida for the summer. For the winter.
And now that it's tabled, we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
That would save on the litigious aspects.
Yes, exactly. No one was here.
I'm not going.
Okay, so for the hot seat, we're gonna switch out and bring Jay up. The next item is the sewer lining project for St. Clair Street. And the engineer is recommending that the work be completed now, so if Jay can just bring us up to speed.
Okay, so I guess just for the background, the St. Clair Street project, it was originally talked about, whether the village should look at replacing storm sewers and sanitary sewers with this project. That was ruled out from the start of the project. The original engineer advised a sewer lining program be taken up years after the project of the reconstruction was done. With the changing of the engineers, And then all the camera work that was done during and after construction. The current engineers made a recommendation that the village move the sewer lining up. Basically as soon as possible. There is some evidence of cracking and some other leaks and joints and stuff that were identified. And again, with that recommendation, I went out looking for some quotes just to get some ideas budgetary wise for the lining. Unfortunately, we've got a very limited option. I found one company in situ form out of the Hamilton area. The other company I reached out to is Liquiforce, which started out of the Essex County area. They're an American-owned company now. I contacted them. They are not doing work in Canada at this time with their large sewer lining. They're only doing small lateral lines and stuff like that. The third option was from Alberta, and the mobilization cost to get this company to even come from Alberta was basically just not feasible. So we're limited to one company. We do have a quote from them. It is good for 90 days.
Must be high because it wasn't included in our agenda.
It's in now.
It's there now.
Is it?
It was
Oh.
with the environmental services agenda. and I
Okay, all right.
Meant to move it over, but it's still high.
Oh, I see it there now. Okay. Yep.
It is still high though.
So there is one section when I reviewed their quote, there is one section of pipe on Light Street. It was completely replaced from Front Street to Helena, so it can be removed from their quote. And it's approximately between $85,000 and $90,000 worth of pipe. With the rough measurements that I took. So we are looking at approximately $1,071,182 excluding taxes. Which then we could potentially take approximately $80,000 to $90,000.
So we're gonna put
So $1 million into that. I guess my recommendation will be to follow the recommendation of the engineer. Obviously, they're the professional that is advising this. It would be unfortunate if we were to leave it for too long, if there was an issue with one of the sewer lines and it were to fail and collapse, then we would have to obviously excavate a new road and do the work from there. So there could be significant damage to a brand new road by not moving forward with this.
Any questions then of Jay? Just Councilor Mondo?
What's the length of time it would take to do from Helena down to, I guess, Michigan? On Sinclair.
I believe the start
I don't
was,
see that.
I know it was 10 days they want to do their cleaning and inspection.
Yeah,
Trying to. So the preparation work would be 10, it'd be 20 working days for the actual lining. So from start to finish, weather permitting, and then we're looking at about a month, about a 30-day period from start to finish. Once they get mobilized on site.
as far as traffic interference or road closing, do we have any idea?
Right now, talking with them, they don't foresee a big disruption. They use semi-trailers, so we would have to put yield to oncoming traffic signs up. Depending how the local traffic and visiting traffic obeyed the traffic signals, we may have to look at doing closures in between blocks to for worker safety. We have had issues with worker safety in the past in the village, so we've started full road closures because of that. So it may be a consideration to do road closures between certain sections. to prevent any possible injuries that could happen.
So-
If,
so it would be done in sections.
yeah, it would
Yeah.
start at one end, it's just continue.
Just
So
continue
we would-
on.
We could close sections at a time and
Okay.
and as they move through, open and close those sections to minimize any disruption.
Sure. Okay.
Anything else? Councilor Burgess?
I don't know if anybody can answer this off the top of their head, but are we building any reserves yet in water to put towards any of this?
So no, the proposal to pay for this would be like, we've only used $2 million out of the $6 million authorization from Infrastructure Ontario.
Hmm.
I think we anticipate pavement to be in the $1 million range for top coat. So there's borrowing the money is not what would be done. That's how we would recommend paying for it.
That's always my first question.
I have two quick questions. You mentioned some of the pipes are cracking. So this liner will stop that cracking and make the structure sound again?
It's not necessarily gonna stop cracking, what it's going to, it'll put a layer complete. Basically, it's forming a pipe within the pipe.
Okay,
They, on their website and the information, they say it gives you an estimated 50-year extension to the life of the pipe. Whether or not 50 years is accurate, but.
I'll let you know.
It,
Yeah.
you know, that's their claim, that you can get up to 50 years in life expectancy out of doing it. So it'll give the extra rigidness to that pipe. It'll seal the infiltration at the joints, and then obviously where a crack is, it gives it added strength so it can't collapse in on itself.
And then there's no value in doing that section with the new pipe. That would just be wasting money, right?
Yes,
Because that pipe is,
it's brand new. It
Okay.
just went.
and then, but that pipe in 30 years that section could be done quite easily just as a standalone.
Yeah, it's an easy process to get started. They start where you want and they'll stop where you want.
Just on that, there is a YouTube video out to see how they do it.
Oh.
It's really, really cool to see.
Is this that like those ones where it comes out the other end like a big,
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like kind of looks like a sod going in, they
Yeah.
push it through.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes out the end, they'll stop and then it gets cut off.
yeah,
It's a resin material, like, or a cloth type material, and they
Mhm.
put a resin in it, and that makes the solid.
adhesives, okay?
So, sorry,
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
Jay, have they, they're aware of our time limitation based on when that top coat comes? So they would be available, once that decision's made, to get moving on this. So it's done, and then we can do the top coat in the fall.
Yeah, it won't actually affect the top coat, but with the cleaning process, I would suggest we do it in case there is any identified issues. Because part of this project, well, even though we've cambered it last fall, they will come
Mhm.
through, they'll actually clean the pipe again.
Okay.
They send it through that, scrape the walls of the pipe. So if there was anything identified that wasn't there last fall or
Okay,
it's got worse since last fall. And then the other thing is the quote's good for 90 days.
okay, yeah,
90 days,
okay.
and the way things are happening in the world today, you know, could be significant changes, so.
And I think we want to get this done. Last thing we want to do is be running heavy equipment on our brand new top coat in July, right? Like, because I'm sure these trucks are heavy and so the sooner we get it done with this coat, then it's much better, so. Okay, so we're looking for a mover and a seconder. The council authorized the completion of the lining of the sewers on St. Clair Street as per the engineer's recommendation and the quote received on the project, and that the funds be wired through the Infrastructure Ontario loan.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councilor Mandu, second by Councilor Noctor. You vote in favor, Mayor Hand?
Yes,
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Good, 89 days. And I think, just for anybody watching, this was always the plan, for this project was to do the liner, right?
It was always the plan, other than like originally we did talk, when we looked at complete replacement. That was the rule, because it obviously would be more.
Yep.
The plan was originally within a 5+ year term.
Yep.
But, with the condition and the video work that's been done, it's being recommended to do it
Okay,
sooner.
thank you. Thank you. We'll swap out again. We'll bring Mike forward. This next item is item 4 under new business. This is the request for a St. Clair Light Street public parking lot. Yeah.
Again, this is, it's not as lengthy as a report, but it does have a number of different pieces of information that, were asked for. So again, seeking council's direction, at council's direction, just to provide an analysis for creation of a new municipal parking lot at 701 Light Street. The purpose and decisions required. So the purpose is really to analyze a delivery model for, in this case, a 22 space surface lot of approximately 660 meters. That would support local businesses and seasonal visitors. To look at the possibility of it being a free, limited time or paid model. Manage municipal liability through documentation, maintenance, accessibility for Ontario AODA, as well as design to public spaces compliance. The area derived for specific AOD spaces of the specific stalls, as well as any parking lot or any aisles that are necessary, signage and all the new construction aspects of the lot. Went on a 10-year financial snapshot in terms of what this would look like from the financial assumptions. This section here talks specifically about if the village is interested in doing it for the paid versus the unpaid, for the free model. So this first financial snapshot talks about the paid aspect, if it was interested to do so. Where this model is taken from a number of different local municipalities who have paid parking and just provide some potential cost recovery streams for it. So as the assumptions show, there's an 8-hour paid model for 300 days, specific pay window between Monday and Saturday. Examples 8 to 4. These are assumptions that would just to be able to give some numbers behind. Let's say an average of 55 paid occupancies during this time, and a potential of $1.50 an hour with 10% processing fee, so $1.65. Operations in winter in terms of costing for snow removal or remediation or any damage, we're looking at approximately about $9,000. And then in particular enforcement costs, depending on what enforcement model you'd be looking at, could exceed or could be up to about $12,000 a year. The life cycle reserve. So this comes back to the true asset management aspect of it. So you want to make sure you put a 2% replacement cost of that particular lot in place to help support maintenance and the extended lifespan of that particular area. So this can be identified, and that was again, that was a good municipal benchmark that I found Chatham uses very specifically for a lot of their paid lots. And then there's the pay-by-play model, which a number of places use. We can either use a specific pedestal to be able to do that, or an example would be like the honk system in London, where it's just a QR code. You take a picture of it, takes you to the website, you fill out all your details, and everything's done electronically. That's the software model. So just taking all the metrics in place to be able to take a look at the CapEx, so your capital expenditures, any particular net revenues, a 10-year cumulative costs, and then your net replacement value that comes into place. So that's where this chart of you look at a free, a paid parking, and a parking hybrid. So the free time limited just indicates that there would be certain times in which the parking lot is unused, very much like Waterfront Park. There's specific timeframes that there's no occupancy down at that space. Looking at that, you can see that there's specific net losses. It would be net costs to this for the annual maintenance, enforcement, signage, painting, crack removal, that type of thing, as well as the net replacement value over a 10-year period at 3% comes down to that evaluation of $205,000 as a net replacement value after a 10-year cycle. If you were looking at a paid hybrid, it does show that there are some cost recovery models to be able to help recover the cost, but no matter what, at the current level of payment, you would not be able to break a net even at this point. You'd have to increase that quite dramatically to be able to do so. So the interpretation, paid option covers enforcement, operations, maintenance, renewal. Free model requires ongoing tax supports or other supports in financial methods. Seasonal permits are used by Collingwood, Cobourg, Goderich, Norfolk, other specific small town contexts to be able to support this. Notes on construction that are separate from above. Looking at a fully serviced 22 lot planning could range between 150 and 250. That estimate has been supplied by a local engineer. We do have some costings on that. Replacement of the floor value alone at the paved areas, as you can see, would be approximately $120,000. That's just the pavement. That's at the current valuation. Now, we have to be very cautious as asphalt prices are very volatile at the moment with global challenges that are happening. So something to definitely keep our eye on. And then keeping a 20 to 30% contingency, for that supports the asphalt volatility, as I mentioned. Risk management. So one of the big things that we really want to take care of is safety and liabilities, which is going to be your highest impact in terms of any sidewalk or any parking space. So trips, falls, incidents from potholes, any heaving, ponding, black ice, that type of thing. Again, in Ontario law expects meaningful and consistent repair. Any mitigations, so there'll be specific levels of service that we put in place, and we did just speak about some of the major aspects. Legal and insurance exposures, it talks more about how the risks of what that would look like in terms of a joint or several environments, what the insurance costs would be. There would be a potential increased insurance cost for that. AODA compliance, that would be built into the parking lot itself in specific lots according to the recommendations or the rules for AODA. The revenue shortfalls and the assumptions in terms of if there was paid model versus unpaid. Technology, again, that goes back to the paid model aspect, and then enforcement. Now you could look at particular OPP enforcement, but a number of provincial and municipalities are going to this administrative monetary penalty system, AMPS, which is basically it's a very efficient, simple monitoring system and a payment system, which I can go further into. I've got some documentation if people are further interested in that type of thing. Public consultation in this slot would be recommended to get public support in response in terms of the construction itself. And then quickly, this is a draft that was provided to us by the engineer regarding what the area would look like at that space.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions? Mayor Hand?
I had a question off the top. Have we given any thought, or I would like to suggest that we build this into the project the same as we're doing with the lining cost, because I feel like we're putting spaces back that were lost during, because of the project. So we could fund it from that loan that we're taking. And second question is a consideration of having a charging station, since we don't have one anywhere else, could be part of the new parking lot.
So refunding, Jim, do you want to,
Yeah, I mean,
anything's
if
possible?
yeah, exactly. If you chose to go forward with this, it could be considered part of the project. Yeah. And same with, we could look into the charging station for electrical vehicles.
And any grants?
Grants for that.
It's,
In regards to the
we'd have to
funding,
look
Yeah,
at
there might be a grant still. I'm not sure. We find out.
enrolling it into the project would not be a stretch because we did take away a significant number of on-street parking and other parking, and this is sort of.
Yeah, I think it fits.
Okay.
In terms of the charging station, if I may, I would just have to identify the source. I do know that.
Solar.
Yeah.
Okay, it was just a thought if we're putting it
No.
there and we don't have a charging station.
No, it's a great suggestion. I would just be identifying if the current building would be able to support having that number of amperage to be able
Yeah,
to buy that, or if we could tap off of some existing lines that are in that space.
Okay.
It's something I can investigate.
but yeah, I'm all for it. going into the project.
Councilor Laundry?
I just got a concern about if you're gonna charge people to park. DMI building, it's $2. Where's everybody park? On the road.
Mhm.
You're not gonna get anybody to pay to park. Not in Point Edward, you know? So I can't see anybody paying. No, it's,
The idea.
they won't pay $2 at DMI when they have to go to the doctor.
Yeah, no, the idea with the payment model was just to make sure that it was a full financial.
Yeah,
goal.
no, I understand, but I'm just saying that I don't think that would fly.
And I appreciate you bringing the concept forward. I think if we were to ever introduce paid parking at one lot, we'd have to do it village-wide. It has to be downtown or it'd have to be waterfront. So and I don't think we're prepared to go there yet. But the technology supports being able to introduce parking much easier now than the old days.
Yeah.
My comment, what's the bond? So there was two numbers there, the two, the 150 to 250 and the 119. Help me with this. So the 150 to 250 is your estimate on building this parking lot?
That's correct.
And then the 119 was if we had to replace?
That would just be the top. That's correct.
Okay, and is this estimate, are we looking at full curbing or are we just,
Yes,
so do we have to have full curbing or
Yes.
can we, why is that?
that's the engineer's request, right? That would be that's their suggestion to match existing municipal parking lots and be able to support the best legal framework for us to be able to.
So at like a waterfront park, we have both, right? We have at by the river, we don't have curbs at all. Yet the new one we do. So is that a new standard to have curbs?
I can ask the engineer to confirm that. for me,
Okay.
Yes.
And then you mentioned here lighting, would it be like a solar lighting or would, I guess if we're bringing a charger, we could do that.
It'd be specific street lighting to support any dark
Okay.
spots. That's a very dark area with
Yeah.
no.
Okay, and I have one more. And then the entrance, you're recommending be right off St. Clair just to avoid conflict with our driveway for public works.
That was the engineer's suggestion.
Engineer's suggestion, okay.
Yes.
Okay, anything else then?
Follow-up question.
Yep, go ahead.
If we're putting that entrance in, does that mean we have to break the road up to get the storm sewer set up out there and that, is it, or does it go a different way?
In the current configuration, I don't believe the storm scepter that is in the lot is impacted. That's the reason that this was located where it is. There'll be the tree removal and such from that and some grading that will be necessary, but I believe, and I can confirm again with the engineer that that won't be necessary.
And I do have another comment,
Yep.
which you're probably waiting for. At the low end, it's $6,800 a spot. At the high end, it's $11,300 for 22 per spot for 22 spots. I think that's a little bit much to spend. But that's my opinion.
I have to build up, you don't need to reply to that, eh?
No, I'm just saying, that's just my,
Yeah.
like, it's a lot per parking spot. That's-
So could we realize savings if using our staff and some of our equipment, we did some of the preparation, like the dirt removal, putting the base in, or does that have to be done by specialized people?
We simply don't have the capability with the current equipment to be able to support that in a way that would support parking.
Okay, would we be able to realize savings if they paved it when we paved the top coat?
Very possibly, yes.
Okay. And if we greenlit this, like, would we do it, get right underway? Is that?
If council's decision is to move forward with this, I will move forward with the engineer to get some heavier drawings to start the entire process of looking at tenders to be able to identify. this.
Better numbers.
Correct. And then as Mayor Handel asked, I'll look into the charging station aspect as well to see if I can bring it back to council with a stronger proposal identifying what the more accurate costs and a better rendering of what it would look like.
I have a couple
Yes, go
questions
ahead.
if you're
Councilor
done.
Burgess, yep, I'm done.
Okay. I have concerns about that location. I find that corner to be quite difficult to navigate on most days with people pulling out of parking lots. I go by there quite often and I think it's going to be a bit of a nightmare sometimes. So I do have those concerns about that location, especially right on that curve. My next question is, and we might not be at this point yet, is there underground infrastructure that runs through there?
Just to the south of the photo, inside a dark spot just outside of the red, that is a catch, there's a catch basin in the ground there. Outside of that.
There's no
I'm not
water?
sure There's any other.
Does it?
Jay, is there water that runs through there? I thought there was a main water line that ran through there.
There is water that, can't see the height. There is a hydro pole and it does cut across.
Just because growing up here, St. Clair Street used to drive right out to the highway. And we used to come straight down St. Clair, it split in the light, and St. Clair had an exit right on the highway back in the day.
Yeah, so the current water main comes down. Kind of follows the curb and then it 45s and it comes back across the front of Public Works.
Right.
The entrance and probably the first 2 or 3 parking spots are gonna be kind of right where the main runs. Probably the first 2, I would say, and then the entrance, but that being said, I'm not real concerned about it being on top. The
Okay.
excavation is not gonna use up the. Obviously, if something happened, we'd have to dig.
That's our main, not Law's main.
No, I'm sorry, Laws doesn't have a main in that area.
Okay.
The old 24 used to run on the backside of the highway there. On the properties, but it's all decommissioned.
Okay.
As far as I know, I don't have any drawings that show this old store, getting storm or anything in there.
And I guess I have concerns too, if the businesses around there are largely businesses that serve alcohol, do we want to add parking for those businesses? I've talked to a few lawyers over the years about site plans for pubs, and they were usually trying to have less parking. Don't drive your car, get dropped off, ride a bicycle, whatever. That's my other concern I have, because if I'm going to have a couple, I probably wouldn't drive or need a parking spot. So that's the other concern I have, adding parking for that.
One could argue we're providing extra overnight parking for people to safely leave their vehicle if they have too much, right? But yeah, I see both sides of that, yeah.
I guess to counter that, but in an impaired state of judgment and having access to your vehicle and your keys,
Yeah.
that's where people do make those
Oh,
poor
yeah.
choices.
Oh, I know. Yep, okay. Any other questions then of Mike?
Question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry, Mayor Hand. You're frozen
Comment?
right now. Well, you're not frozen, you're warmer than all of us. But you're not moving or there's no audio, Bev.
How far do we have to consult neighbors too, or is that the next step?
Jim, do you?
There is a house, a residence that had addressed us before regarding the brewery going in. And that's gonna be a neighbor.
We should
That's
consult.
the only
them.
house in that area.
Pardon me?
That's the only house on that area, on that side of the street.
Yeah, and then just around the corner, there's a couple more.
We could certainly do some public consultation. I'll speak to.
Just, do we have that obligation is what I was more looking for.
I'll find out.
Because before you go, Mike, Mayor Hand had a question. I just asked her to text it to us because her Wi-Fi is unstable. And she's just typing now. Any other questions of Mike then?
No good way to get out.
Yeah, it's an obstacle course.
Well,
For Mike or the garbage.
we just asked Bev to text us her question.
Yeah, it's,
She's dotting. Oh, here it goes. Okay, so this relates to the traffic pulling out onto St. Clair coming off, and she just said that people will be coming out at various times. It's not like a work site, so she thinks that might mitigate the concern. It'll be not like 4 o'clock, everybody leaving the parking lot type of thing. It'll be just casual users. One of the things that was proposed when this first started was waypoint signage out there to try and steer it back to our walking trail, like having possibly like a sign with a map of the village showing a 10-kilometer walking route and some of the destinations on that route. So I think it's something we might want to talk to the trails people is a good thing, or TSL, and see if they could work with us to try and make, if we're going to spend all this money on it, make it into a place where I can park my car, I can look at a map, I can make determinations of where I want to go, and just sort of create it so that it's more than just a parking lot. It's a place to start your journey in the village type of thing. So it's just a suggestion, and that was in the initial proposal. So okay, so somebody wants to make a motion then? Because they're looking for council direction. No motion means it dies here. Okay, so we're not prepared to give direction back to Mike on what to do with this? Is that what I'm hearing?
The thing to do is call for motion 3 times,
Okay.
and if there is nothing coming forward, then it dies on the floor.
Okay.
And just so you're aware, the chair can make a motion, just, I
Okay.
didn't know if you were aware of
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but you can.
Just with Bev not here, it feels weird to not, because she sounded like she was
Yeah.
potentially in support. Could we phone her?
I can try that.
Phone friends.
Yeah.
She's trying.
Phone there.
Hey, Bev. Okay. You're all right, me putting you on speakerphone? Okay,
It's just been unstable.
okay.
Oh, there I'm back, coming back. You let me in.
Oh, there you are up there.
Sorry.
All right. There
It's
you are.
not, sorry, it's not good internet.
Okay, so the place we're at right now, Bev, is we've concluded discussion. We're looking for a motion to either whatever we want to do. So
Froze again.
pros again. We'll do it by phone. We'll call you back.
Turn your camera off, Bev, please. Sometimes you turn the camera off, the sound will work.
Okay, there you are. You're moving again.
Yep, I'm hearing you.
Okay. So we're at the stage now, we're looking for a motion. I've called for a motion once and didn't get anybody moving anything. You weren't on the phone, so we wanted to bring you on in case you're prepared to make a motion. All right, I'll call second time for, if any, are you hearing us now? Okay, Bev?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
and the motion is to, what are we looking for,
I
Jim?
think
Yeah,
he's got an example. Did he have it
What
written out?
motion would you like to make? Like,
Well, the developed parking lot.
Okay,
so you'd like to make a motion to proceed with the proposal as circulated?
yeah, without paid, with not paid? Is that
Enrolled into the project.
okay? Okay, and I'll second that. And she froze again.
I think we should just forget
Yeah.
about the,
Just let's his phone and get her on speaker.
sorry.
All right. Testing my chairmanship ability.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're just gonna forget about,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, so moved by Bev, seconded by Greg, that the project proceed with non-paid parking and that the costs be rolled into the St. Clair Light Street project. Is that your motion, Bev?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll call the vote. Could we do a recorded vote, Jen, on this one?
Okay. All right, Councillor Mondu,
Against.
Councillor Noctor,
In-
Councillor Burgess,
Against.
Councillor Noctor. Bev, can you just turn off your
Sorry,
Zoom, please?
Sorry? Okay,
Okay.
yep, I'm trying
Okay.
to.
Councillor or Mayor Hand, how do you like to vote on this matter?
yes,
Yes,
And Deputy Mayor Grimes,
In favor.
okay? We have 3 in favor, Jen, or 2?
3-2.
3. Okay, so the motion passes 3 votes to 2.
Okay.
So we will start with planning and bring this back with a further report with more accurate numbers, our final numbers.
Okay,
Okay,
so next item on the agenda is the confirmation bylaw. Is there somebody prepared to move that?
any other new business
Oh, any other new business? I'm sorry.
and bylaws? There's a couple of things we missed.
Actually blanked me.
Oh.
There we go, I'm back. Okay, any community events or public events anybody wants to promote?
yeah, I wanted to
I wanted to mention
mention
that,
that on Easter Sunday, there's the sunrise service at the Pergola
Yes?
between the two churches,
Presbyterian and
Anglican,
Anglican.
and then
They're going to
they're
have
going to
a
have
service after, like a regular service
a
and
lunch on Easter.
Sunday.
That's
That's
all I know.
about.
It's like in the middle of the night, 6
7
a.m. or something like that, 7 a.m.
I think it's 7
When
a.m.
it starts.
Okay, any other new business? No, okay.
Oh,
Greg,
you could mention the ice show at the arena.
Oh, yes, that's
I just thought of
ASO,
that, because that signals the end of our season.
April 9th and 10th, I think. Yes, April 11th, 12th, I think it is.
And then ice will come out the following day.
Yep.
You're right.
All right. Okay, confirmation bylaw. What do we have to do bylaw number 6 first, mover?
Plan of subdivision, this is the bylaw to authorize the plan of subdivision on 1600
Moved
Venetian.
by Councillor Burgess, second by Councillor Noctor. Any discussion? No? All in favor? That's, thank you. That's approved. Now the confirmation bylaw. So seemed quite hung up on that. Bylaw 7, mover.
I'll do it.
Councillor Mondu, second by Councillor Noctor. All in favor? Motion to adjourn. I see Mayor Hand moved that. Seconded.
Yeah.
Okay, second, Councillor Noctor, and vote. All in favor? This meeting's adjourned. Our next meeting will be
28.
of April, or unless called by the chair. Thank you, everyone. Sorry it went so long. Normally I'm better at this.
Thanks for, sorry for the disruption.
No worries, we got through it.